Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone. Your journey, our passion.
This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy, episode 221 for December 6th, 2013. Lexus gets ready for the Lux Cart knife fight. Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time or 2300 GMT. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or by following the links on our website. Peter D.
Hey, John, how are you?
I almost don't recognize you. I haven't seen you so long.
I know.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been.
And we should let everybody know we got Mike Ramsey with us from Wall Street Journal. Great having you here, Mike.
Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And we'll have Jeff Bracken from Lexus with us later on in the program. But big news today at Ford. Unveil of the Mustang.
Yeah.
You like it or not?
I like it. I don't think it goes far enough. I thought the Evos, they should have put more Evos in it, but it's nice. Lots of substantive changes. Suspension, chassis, brakes. I think it's nice. I like the addition of the EcoBoost turbo as the third engine. So I think they'll do well with it.
What'd you think, Mike, of the Mustang?
And it's funny to say this, and it probably sounds like a giveaway for Ford, but the car really does look better in person than it does in photographs.
Especially the leaked, poorly shot Autoweek photograph that went out a day or so ago.
It's an odd, I can understand, someone called it the Fusion Coupe, which...
I think that's unfair.
It's unfair. If you see the car in person, the proportions are a lot better. You can really tell that it's lower to the ground and wider than the other version, and generally I think it's a nice-looking car, but I have to agree, I was expecting something that was a bit more of a departure. And my analysis is that may have been the plan, and then people kind of freaked out, like they worried that would be too much, you know?
You think that was it? Peter, do you think they chickened out?
I think it was a cost issue.
Oh.
I think to do the Evos, the sensual impact of the Evos, which was quite a hot car in person, I think it was too costly.
The one thing
And would take it out of its price point.
Yeah, I know they had to be careful because there was a lot of backlash against the Evos that amongst the old-time Mustang crowd, that it was too European or certainly too different.
Well, I don't know about that. I was at the event this morning, and they had all these old Mustangs, and they showed this video. You were there with the guy waxing on eloquently about the Mustang, too. Really? I mean, that was the biggest piece of crap to come out of Detroit in probably the last 35 years.
It was a Pinto with a Mustang badge.
Just so I'm glad there's Mustang enthusiasts out there. I think it's cool. It's a great car. I learned how to drive a stick on a '66 Shelby GT350. So don't be, throwing your Ford Mustang stuff in my face, because I was there. But they should have gone for a little more. And, if the Mustang faithful were a little aghast if it looked too much like the Evos, tough,
Well, I was surprised to talk to two Mustang Club guys, and they loved the new car, and I was surprised to hear that.
I think the Mustang people, I think, love the new car. I think it's cool. I think it's very nice. I think they'll do very well. I just wish they'd done a little more radical.
I was surprised to learn it's an all-new platform. I thought they were just heavily modifying but...
Yeah, no, it is all new, and there's some, obviously, they're not going to just use it for the Mustang.
No, they're not. What's the guy, Frank, who runs that whole thing? I can't remember his last name. Dang it, and I know the guy real well. But yeah, we were asking him, what else are you going to do with this platform? And boy,
they give you a lot of...
He was doing the tap dance as best he could.
Mark Fields actually kind of was, he got this big smile on his face and said, we're here to talk about the Mustang today, which is, kind of like, we know that this will be used for something else. We can speculate, and I will, that it will be some sort of Lincoln, derivative, sort of like the one Lincoln that I really liked, the LS. I
remember the LS.
Yeah,
Yeah, when it first came out, it was pretty good
actually,
for what it was.
I don't know. Maybe some people didn't like it. I always liked that car. I thought it was fairly attractive.
Well, the problem was it was attractive when it first came out, and then they really didn't do much of anything with it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to keep improving these things, not just change the tail lamps.
Yeah.
I thought the coolest thing was the woman who bought the first Mustang
Yeah.
today.
They had her up there,
Yeah.
talking about her
The
experience.
sales guy in Illinois took her and her parents back. You know, I'm not supposed to show you this. And he sold it 2 days early for the official intro date.
Now, there's somebody who understands sales.
Yeah.
I got a customer right now. They're willing to write a check. I'm not going to wait 2 days.
Of course, I think this whole thing was wrong. Why? They should have not done a thing until next April and had a Mustang Day. I heard all the rationale of why they did this in December. None of it makes any sense.
Well, I agree, because in volume production, the car's still almost a year away.
Yeah,
You know, why would you give out so much right now?
It makes no sense, and it was the wrong call. And so in April, what are they going to do around the New York Auto Show?
Yeah.
Everyone's seen the Mustang. What are you going to do? I think it was okay. The significance of that April date is it was the most successful launch in automotive history.
Is that right?
Yes, it will never be repeated again. You would think that they would make everything revolve around that. And, you know, okay, so with Ford, there's two things. The F-150 is the franchise. The Mustang is the soul of the company. So they're going to show the new F-150 in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Why not let the F-150 have its whole thing there? You know, in Detroit, and, you know, a month after, maybe 2 weeks before, and let everyone cool their jets about the Mustang. But now, I know the internal hand-wringing got carried away, and they talked themselves into it. I think it was the wrong call. They should have just waited.
I was glad to see it's getting an independent rear suspension.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good move.
They had to do that. I think they had to do that.
Camaro really made them do that, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they knew in the last generation they had to do it, and they just couldn't figure out how to get it done, and they finally figured it out. So I think it'll be the best Mustang ever by a long way. So.
Yeah, this you mentioned earlier, this 2.3 liter EcoBoost engine, twin scroll.
With 300 horsepower.
300 horsepower, 300 pound-feet. I mean...
well, I just drove the CTS with the 2 liter, and, I thought it's a sensational car, so I have a feeling that Mustang will be fun. Really fun.
It should be. The other thing is the surface detailing. I mean, they had a buck out there. You know, it wasn't a full real car, but nonetheless, very indicative of what the production car will look like. And this is going to be, from a surface treatment standpoint, the most sophisticated looking Mustang ever.
Yeah, people will be, to your point, you see it in pictures, it doesn't do it justice. When you see it on the road, it's got a great stance, so. And the interior is nice, very nice.
Well, I only saw the pictures. I never got up close enough to see the car because so many people were around.
But fit and finish, you can tell they've upped that too.
Ben's got a picture of it up there right now. And yeah, the instrument panel looks like it's jumped into the 21st century. My big question is the interior door trim panels, because to me in the past they always look like cheap stick-ons.
No, those are. I've actually sat in the car, and the interior is especially if you sat in a Mustang, an existing Mustang, and then you sat in that one side by side. You can see that they clearly spent a lot of time deplasticizing the interior, giving it some shape. The current Mustang is almost like a flat shelf. You know, the whole dash is kind of like sort of like a flat face with 1,000 buttons. This one's much more. They use the term aeronautical. You know, they have all the circular dials and I think that the interior is one of the biggest areas of improvement on the new Mustang, for sure.
You know, at the event today, too, I heard that Hal Sperlich was there. And, you know, even though Lee Iacocca is generally credited with the guy who brought out the Mustang, it was Sperlich who we had on the show here 3 years ago.
I thought I saw Hal there.
And, yeah, well, what I heard is he's still persona non grata at Ford Motor Company. And so he had to be snuck in by people who wanted him there. They did not want him talking to the media. You know, because remember, Hal got fired by Henry Ford II when he started arguing that they should build the Fiesta, sell and build the Fiesta in the U.S. And that's where he came up with his famous line, you know, small cars, small profits. And apparently Sperlich argued a little too strenuously with Hank the Deuce. And he got fired and went to Chrysler. Remember, he went to Chrysler before Iacocca did.
Well, he also wanted to do the minivan at Ford.
Which he did at Chrysler. But anyway, Sperlich was there today, too. So that was kind of interesting that they had to sneak him in and sort of sneak him out again, too.
And Al Mulally is going to be on the Colbert Report.
Tonight. Well, and, you know, to me, the most interesting thing about this unveil today is they also did it in Barcelona, Sydney, Australia, Shanghai, LA, and New York.
This is the first global Mustang. They're going to try to sell it globally, so.
And I don't think it's going to do big numbers, but they do, I think, in the U.S., 7,000 a month, more or less. You know, if globally they could bump that up to, I'll make up a number, 10,000 a month, that would be a big number for them.
Yeah. Well, look, in American motoring, there are really two most famous model names. One is Corvette, and the other is Mustang. So it's a big deal. I just wish they had waited till next April.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of them going to Europe with the Mustang, what do you guys make of Chevrolet being yanked out of Europe?
That's my next column, but these guys are just the complete bumbling idiots of the automobile business at this point. I mean, there is no rhyme or reason for what they're doing anymore. I mean, remember, this was Gursky's thing. He was going to make Opel work, you know. So now, but at the same time, we're going to launch Chevrolet globally. Joe Alonic, you know, thinking, okay, what's the biggest global thing going? Manchester United.
Oh, I forgot about
So they do a deal with Manchester United to have Chevrolet on there. I predict, now that deal doesn't take into effect till after 14. I predict by the time the deal comes to fruition.
They spell Chevrolet O-P-E-L.
Yeah, it'll be Opel. Right. And because this whole notion was convoluted anyway, that Chevrolet is going to be a global nameplate. It just ain't. And now they're just, you know, they look like the wafflers they are. And, you know, Ackerson can't leave soon enough. I mean, it's really, there needs to be a major regime change there. There just needs to be.
My thought is, I'm not going to disagree with the word that you said, but I'll put my own spin on it. I think that fundamentally the decision, though, to stop with Chevy in Europe and invest their product development resources that had been going to Chevy and put some of those cars into the Opel lineup is a smart decision.
They have
to do this.
That was a smart decision.
They've been splitting. Yes, the decisions made before. I'll let you say that.
Yeah,
but
the bad decision was before.
Yeah.
I mean, Chevrolet is nowhere in Europe.
No.
Opel is. Opel's an established, you know, and the wrong-handed decision was back when they say we're gonna project Chevrolet globally and, you know, in Europe too.
Right, and the mistake there is that that plus that you know they continue to dilute a brand that could be strong. Opel has been starved of advertising resources, management, you know, enthusiasm has been, you know, they basically have this potentially good asset that has, you know, they tried to smother and then gave up at the last second, and then, you know, we're trying to bolster. And, you know, it sounds awful, but I think this is the right move. It's going to be extremely costly. I can't imagine what they're going to do with all these dealers that they have there that don't have.
Well, they're going to have a $1 billion
dealerships.
write-off, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
And they're keeping the Chevy brand in Russia, even though it's pretty tied to, not completely, to the European market.
Sure.
And what about Eastern Europe? Because that's actually where Chevrolet was
Right.
doing well. Are they yanking it? I don't know. It's what a mess.
It's a mess.
What a mess.
and yeah.
Well, Chevrolet on this side of the pond, though, is doing pretty good. I spent the week driving the Corvette Convertible.
Which is much better looking than the coupe.
I got to tell you, I'm driving down in Palm Springs, California, with Ron Ahrens, a fellow journalist, and we notice here's an SLS AMG Mercedes driving next to us, and the guy's holding up his cell phone, trying to drive down the road and take pictures of us in the Corvette at the same time. An SLS AMG, the guy's taking pictures of us. And as we came out of the hotel we were where, this mom came up with a baby stroller with a baby in it, and as we pull out, she stops and, you know, we got the top down, we can hear she goes, "Oh my goodness, what a beautiful car." So, I mean, there's the polar opposites, you know, when housewives and AMG drivers are, you know, stunned by the look of this car, they got something.
Yeah, I think the convertible is just a more cohesive design. There are fewer gimmicks, and it's, you know, I just think it's, and it doesn't have that unfortunate Nissan GTR roofline that's just a disaster.
Hey, the Mustangs kind of got that too.
I don't
Not
know.
so much?
Not so
Okay.
much. I mean, but the Corvette Convertible is beautiful. I think it's a great car.
I drove the Chevy SS too, so for all you Pontiac G8 fans out there, or anybody who's a fan of Holden, we love what's come over on this side.
Or rear-wheel drive, big sedans
big
with
sedans.
V8s.
Corvette V8s, no less. So that's a pretty good car, and they're not going to sell very many. So my question to them was, I mean, when I say not very many, 3,000, 4,000 a year, it's very low numbers. So my question was, okay, was this Chevrolet going out and looking for this kind of car? Did Chevrolet think this is what we need? Or was it Ackerson, you know, saying, hey, can anybody help Holden out here? And so the word I got back was, well, clearly Mark Royce used to run Holden, and clearly Mark would love to help Holden out, but clearly Mark recognizes this is a great car, and they said, no, we went out looking for the car. It wasn't like us trying to do our part to help Holden.
Well, I also use it for the police package, too.
Yeah, though it's not nearly as nice as the police what do they call the police package car? The Caprice. It doesn't look as good. It doesn't, no, the SS is, it's a monster.
But I mean, that's the, you know, the architecture.
Same platform, right.
So.
But it's interesting that, you know, Corvette Camaro, and I drove the 14 Camaro. They've made some minor styling tweaks. But, you know, with Corvette Camaro SS, you know, this is what they are really doing to improve the perception of the brand, create these halo cars that
And they
make them
showed,
aspirational.
yeah, and they showed you the Z06, which you can't talk about.
I can't talk about it. The Z06 will be at the Detroit show.
They teased the,
All I can say is OMG. Not AMG, OMG.
yeah.
And then they talked about the C7R, the racing version, too.
Yeah.
So some serious hardware there.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful race car too, in the flesh.
Yeah. But it's super impressive, the level of technology. And we had Taj Jukter here. He was in After Hours, what, 3-4 weeks ago, whatever.
Yeah.
And, yeah, there's some amazing technology on that car. A lot of which, you know, they've talked a lot about it. There's still stuff they haven't talked about yet. More stories to come.
So, what else?
What else? did
What
we
are you
see this
driving?
week? I'm driving a CTS right now.
Yeah, I love the car.
I do. And I drove, and we'll talk about that later when we get Jeff up here, but I've been driving an F-Sport IS recently, too. And like that.
I think CTS is the best American sedan ever built.
Whoa!
I said it in my column. I can't think of another American sedan.
Well, what's wrong with Cadillac then? I mean, you know, they can't sell. They can't. Do you think that Cadillac's problem is that right now it's a challenger brand and it thinks it's Mercedes or BMW, like the pricing? I mean, I think that they might need to.
I think you guys are being too harsh. I don't think they have a problem with the car in the sense that if you look
the
at
brand more.
I wrote about it this week. I mean, you know, Cadillac, they've done their we're going to out Nürburgring the Germans thing. Okay, that's cool. They can do that. You know, GM's got talent. They can build hot cars. They've demonstrated that. But beyond that, Cadillac, you know, and I've been hammering them on this, is, you know, it's okay for Cadillac to be Cadillac. And they have to decide what that is. Mm-hmm. To me, the future of Cadillac is more the El Mirage.
yes,
I mean,
classic, big.
to grow the brand, the importance and the prestige of the brand, yeah, it's cool to have the hot enthusiast cars, but they need memorable statement cars that people just say, wow, did you see that new Cadillac, you know? I mean, to the intelligentsia, the enthusiasts, you know, I drove a CTS. It's the best American sedan I've ever driven, period. And that's cool, but, you know, they've got to do more. They've really got to push the envelope. They need this big Cadillac that's coming is pivotal. That has to be.
Knock it out of the park.
Yes, that has to be good. GM Design can deliver, so it's just a question of will the car be what it should be. But Cadillac's got to be Cadillac again. You can't just keep chasing BMW. You know, you can't. I mean, they've put their stake in the ground. That's what we're going to do. Well, that's not going to be enough. They're going to have to go beyond. And how do they go beyond? They go back to what they were.
Have you seen the new Escalade?
Yes.
I'm pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, I am too. I mean,
I haven't driven it. I'm just saying the way the thing looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's directed at a certain segment, but they will sell the hell out of it.
And the other thing, you know, they're putting this MR shock technology on it, and that's going to transform the way a big SUV rides and handles. Yeah. Just as it's done with the Corvette. I mean, that's what knocked me out about the Corvette is, you know, the base Stingray is a 1G car. Yeah. And yet, going down the freeway, especially with our broken Michigan concrete, it feels terrific.
Yeah.
Well, GM really has put a lot of energy into saying that the very large SUV segment, well, no one else wants to be in it, so we'll just own it. And not know, you know, there are competitors there, but they definitely do well there. And Ford has been wishy-washy at best about what they're going to do with their biggest SUVs, and so they really do own it, and they've put the investment in there. And the Cadillac, you know, frankly, the Escalade really could be a big money maker for them. You know, it always has sold all right, even through a really long. How long was it between the redesigns?
Well, look, these are the last. The big SUVs, you know, Tahoe, Suburban, Escalade, they're the last ones coming out of bankruptcy that got redone. And I think the reason was they were making so much money on them anyway, and they tended to sell anyway. They said, that's the last thing we're going to tackle. So this is, you know, the last vestiges or the last, you know, traces of the impact of the bankruptcy.
I think they'll do well with it. I mean, yeah, it's a niche segment almost, but they're going to own that.
Yeah.
And the other thing one of the things you mentioned is I think that automakers in general, especially the luxury automakers, whenever you see a brand that doesn't know what it is or who it is, they tend to struggle. I mean, Infiniti for years has tried to figure out what it is, who it is. And you see now it's kind of, again, under
Johan's there. It's going to be the Japanese Audi.
Yeah, it's the Japanese Audi. And, you know, before it was the Japanese BMW, right? Well, I don't know. I mean, either way, that's a difficult thing. How come, you know, they probably should be trying to figure out how to be Infiniti, and what is Infiniti?
Yeah, well, see, they've never determined what Infiniti is.
Exactly.
I mean, Toyota's the previous Toyota determined what Lexus was. Now they're trying to change that. But you know, when those two cars came out, there was a clear demarcation between the two. And remember, the Q45 was actually much more of a driver's car.
Completely.
But they blew their window of opportunity to establish an image, whereas Lexus back then just said, you know, we're going to coddle the customer like you've never even imagined, and it worked. You know, so but now they're trying to be sporty.
Hey, look.
We'll talk to Jeff about
all this talk is perfect segue to bring on our guest, Jeff Bracken. So, Ben, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with Jeff Bracken.
There's only one car company in America that's never made a single car. And while you won't find Firestone cars on any showroom floor, they're out there, running better, faster, stronger, longer. No, we don't build cars. But make no mistake, Firestone is a car company. So whatever you drive a Firestone.
This January, Autoline covers the North American International Auto Show like never before. During press days on Monday and Tuesday, the 13th and 14th, Autoline Live will talk to the executives who made the biggest news and unveiled the hottest products at the Detroit show. But the coverage doesn't stop there. Stay with us on both Wednesday and Thursday, the 15th and 16th, when we are live from Industry Days, as the supplier community comes to Cobo Hall and Autoline Live to discuss the vital issues driving today's industry. For the most comprehensive coverage of the North American International Auto Show, there's only one place to turn: Autoline.tv.
Jeff Bracken, great to have you on Autoline After Hours with us.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate the invitation to be with you.
So you have heard us talking about some of the luxury things going on, and we should let everybody know, and we'll get into more of those details. We should let everybody know we've got a Lexus IS F Sport in the studio with us right now, with a big red ribbon on it. And I know what that's about, but for those who don't understand the red ribbon thing, explain that.
Sure. So the red ribbon has been associated with our December to Remember sales event. As all of you know, December is always a great month for the industry and has been historically a great month for Lexus. So it's an opportunity for us to offer the best deals of the year, whether it's a lease or an APR, and I'm sure this December will be no different. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about that, John.
The industry just had a pretty good month in November. In fact, the Black Friday sales and the whole weekend fell into November. Are we going to see sales lower in December as a result of that?
We don't think so. Even though it's a 4-weekend month instead of a 5-weekend month like November was, our forecasts are for increased volume throughout the month of December by the time we close out the year. There's no reason for us to think any differently. You know, for us, I don't know that we advertise Black Friday so much as maybe pulled our December to Remember event advertising into, you know, part of November just before the Thanksgiving holiday. It turned out that about 35% of all of our November business came over that Thanksgiving holiday period. So it makes you a little bit nervous going into a weekend like that with so much on the line, but our dealers did a phenomenal job and closed out strong.
So, do you know what the Lexus product lineup is? Can you tell me briefly all the models? Because I know you've got this car. What else do you have?
Well, maybe to begin with, our lesser expensive or lowest price vehicle would be CT200H.
Then the ES.
Then IS, then ES, then GS, LS, and then we have 3 SUVs, RX, GX, and LX.
Is that enough?
No. That's a really good question, John. That's a really good question.
Well, you know, because when you look at the Germans, as many models as you have, the Germans tend to have more, no?
They do. You know, I think for Lexus, our history has been, as you mentioned earlier, Peter, has been one built on great customer care and luxury quality built vehicles, which has served us well over almost the first 25 years that we've been in business. But I think as we move forward, it'll be important for us to maybe layer on top of that. So beyond great customer care, beyond, you know, building luxury quality built vehicles, we need to begin bringing to market luxury performance, you know, higher performance vehicles. ISF certainly was a beginning of that maybe on the lower end. Who knows? We'll see how this goes moving forward.
So yeah, that's a clear departure for the brand. And you know, it's interesting because I think, you know, you've established Lexus as one thing in this country, and then now it's just like, okay, wait a minute, you know, we're going to go after enthusiasts. You know, you don't automatically go to the Germans or Cadillac now. I mean, we have something for you. And what are you, 5 years into that now, or longer?
With 5 years into
the performance thing.
That's about right. Well, ISF, then LFA, although LFA was a little bit more of an exotic.
Yeah, LFA was, yeah, you know, that was the tip of your technological spear. But, and you had the I models before, but I think you're really gotten serious really in the last 3 years, right, with this. And what are you going to do? Are you going to get into more motorsport? Are you going to, how are you going to solidify this image for the enthusiast consumer? Other than the fact you're offering it and good reviews, are you going to get into motorsports?
I think decisions about motorsports for Lexus here in America, those decisions have certainly not yet been made. You may see more activity for Lexus globally, but it would be premature for me to talk about that here tonight. You know, we will never walk away from really what has allowed us to flourish so far in the luxury industry. We have to, you know, embrace what has really helped us get us to this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wrote the book on customer service, and everyone has followed, but now it seems like you're casting a wider net. I know Akio Toyota's very much into that, the performance side of it. So it'll be interesting how much you can gather by going, you know, offering this type of car.
Is F going to proliferate throughout the lineup? I mean, is there a home for that at the top end all the way down as a?
Well, we've introduced concept vehicles that could certainly work along those lines, Mike, but again, it's a little bit early for me to go into that kind of detail. But clearly, in terms of Akio's thumbprint on where Lexus is going, we are all benefiting at Lexus, all benefiting by his, you know, pure motivation to improve driving dynamics and improve, you know, high output performance engines.
Well, it's also overall, you know, the other thing he's doing is the emotional component of the automobile is even in normal Toyotas you're stressing. So, which is interesting because they haven't been known for that, and especially Lexus. So, and you showed that coupe concept. Was the LFC?
LFCC.
Yeah. Very nice.
And LFLC, right?
And LFLC.
Which
and
really established the whole design language that the brand's now starting to adopt.
So we're assuming that there's going to be some production.
That's your assumption?
Expression of that.
So we've revealed the LFCC now as an RC, right? You like the styling?
Yes, I do. I thought it was very nice.
So we feel the same way, and that would be a great example of Akio's thumbprint on where he's trying to take the company as it relates to, you know, beautiful styling, IS, RC, and hopefully these concepts that you've become familiar with will ultimately make it to production.
You know, it's interesting. We've got the F-Sport here in the studio, and this has taken the spindle grille to a whole new level. And I was at the LA Auto Show last month, and you had this car out there with the other ones. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this grille makes everything else look so dated.
I agree with you.
It looks sensational. And what I love about the grille especially is it doesn't look like it popped out of an injection molding machine. This thing looks like it was handcrafted. It's very sophisticated the way it's put together. So, not that I should be telling car companies what to do, but you ought to put this grille on everything you got.
John, if you've been talking to our dealers, they feel exactly the same way.
Is that right?
And I would agree with you. It's an absolutely beautiful grille. it plays into our hand of trying to represent a much more aggressive, much more, performance-oriented image, right? It's a tough balance for us because we do have this history of buyers that have lived with us over several generations now that are aging, and that front mesh grille can be a little bit polarizing, but it's an area that we have to do a better job in. In other words, the younger group. So take care of our older buyer group, but definitely try and get a little more aggressive with front grills like what you've described.
But design should be somewhat polarizing. And when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, doggy, what are they thinking? And now I love it. And I'll bet a lot of your older buyers come around to it too.
It's interesting. We've heard both, to be candid with you, John. And at the end of the road, though, it's an appropriate step for us to take. And so if it's polarizing to the point that we may lose some interest from some of our older buyers, I think what we're telling you is we're willing to take that risk. So
how is the mix? Is the mix changing at all? For a while, like your competitors would say, well, Lexus is really just the RX brand, and then they have some other vehicles. I mean, over time, has there been an internal desire? Obviously, you want to continue to sell a lot of RXs, but we can't just be the RX brand. And how is that mix changing? Is it improving to some of the other vehicles?
Well, our RX is still our bread and butter. We'll sell about 100,000 RXs between the RX and the RX Hybrid this year. It continues to be something that we will never want to walk away from. We've just refreshed the GX with the front spindle grille and have gone through a price repositioning. You can now get a GX 460 for $499 a month lease with about $2,500 down. So our whole SUV lineup is doing well, but in terms of a major shift, I don't know that we've seen it yet.
Okay.
We were talking earlier before you came on about all the changes in the luxury segment. What's your read here, Jeff? Here you've got Cadillac, which has moved the needle, Lincoln just getting started on it, Infiniti trying to refigure itself out, and certainly in America, Audi coming on strong.
I think our read, one, let me begin with just the total light vehicle industry. It's been a fantastic year, right? We'll close in on about 15.7 million this year. And for the luxury industry, it's even better, right? The general market will be up about 8%. The luxury industry will be up about 12, 13%, which is right about where Lexus will finish the year at 270,000. So these are all really exciting moves, not just for the industry, but for the luxury industry as well. And our sense is that where the industry will continue to improve, general market industry continue to improve next year, we think, again, the luxury industry will probably run at a faster pace than general market, and we obviously expect to participate in a very competitive manner in that market next year.
Do you think these other challenger brands will make headway market share-wise?
Can you give me a specific challenger brand example?
Let's just pick
Kia 900,
yeah.
Hyundai Genesis, Hyundai
Equus.
the new Equus that's coming, I'm sure is going to be a
yeah, but the numbers are so small. They sell 300-400 a month, something like that. I don't see that making much of a dent.
I think I would answer it this way. Proof will be in the pudding, so I guess I would believe it when I see it. Where we're seeing more pressure is as some of our German competitors have headed down below $30,000. Lexus is electing not to go there. And there's volume below 30,000. For us, from a CAFE regulation standpoint, Toyota and Scion are there to help us manage that. And for me, I send holiday cards to my Toyota and Scion brothers and sisters every holiday period. But I think that since we won't be going down below 30,000, it will be very difficult for us to ever regain luxury leadership. I will tell you that my boss would probably shoot me if I didn't, in my gut, want to go after luxury leadership, but it's just going to become increasingly difficult for us to do that as they head down market.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I think this might be the vulnerability of brands like Lexus and BMW, potentially even Audi as they go downscale. Lexus clearly doesn't have to do so. As you said, you got Scion and Toyota to do just that. Doesn't that open the door for you to really enhance the brand as a prestige, aspirational brand?
It's like you're in our product planning department, John.
Well, you have to go up.
Right.
You know, I think, you know, we talked about this before. I think, you know, Mercedes should have gone up, not down. And I think BMW the same. And so I would expect that there's gold in them there hills if you go up.
But you know, Johan de Nys and I had a really interesting discussion with him, and he said, look, the problem with the brands like Mercedes and BMW is they need volume to spread the amortize the cost of all this technology, and we're only just getting going on the technology.
Or they're going to have to get sold. They're going to be bought.
Right, and he said, you know, when you introduce new technology, you put it in your expensive brands because those buyers can afford it. And then it'll start to gravitate down to your mass market brands, and now you can really start to make money on it. And that was his read of why Mercedes and BMW were going downscale, is they got to pay for this technology somehow.
Well, also, they're not big enough. I mean, they're vulnerable. And the Quant family has been wanting to offload BMW for what, a decade now? Longer? So, I mean, you know, Daimler, you know, they've got a lot of business that we don't know about, but they're vulnerable too. I mean,
it's going to be interesting, I think, if you're at Mercedes or BMW and you're heading into those price ranges, how does that affect your brand? Right? Time will tell. I think it's hard for anyone to really make that judgment.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one thing, I had a CLA Mercedes, and, you know, I looked at the 29,995, and I thought, well, what if I want heated seats?
Right.
Because it doesn't come with heated seats.
Yeah, by the time
and what
you're
if I
done,
want nav?
You're near 40.
Well, you're 30,
36.
36 and change, right, you know. So, but I think it's a mistake from a brand prestige standpoint. This is one of the key reasons why BMW created Mini, was so it did not have to go downscale. This is one of the key reasons why Mercedes wanted Chrysler back when, so it didn't have to do that.
Haven't they done this before, too? I mean, it's not like BMW and even Porsche haven't played around with lower entry-level vehicles, and they usually have been disasters.
Yeah,
they haven't, you know, I'm not saying that this will be a disaster, but it's not like there's no evidence in the past that hasn't worked. I was going to ask, the technology landscape, it seems like it's getting harder to find places to put really advanced technology in the premium that you can't get in the regular market. You know, it used to be that this is where all the crazy safety technology went, and then you wouldn't get it in the mass market for very long. That seems to be crunched more. What do you think about that? Does Lexus have? Do you know? I'm sure you know. Are there a lot more tricks up the sleeve that you can feel like you can put in your high end, your stuff that will be able to say, okay, a Camry will not give you these doodads. There's a reason to buy a Lexus.
I think that strategically we do try to make sure there's a very clear difference between Lexus and Toyota and Scion, for that matter, as it relates to leather quality or various features that are offered on a Lexus but may not be offered on a Toyota. I think over time our strategy is that as we introduce some new technology on a Lexus, it will filter to Toyota. Now that doesn't happen always that way, but strategically from a product planning standpoint, that's what we've embraced.
Hey, this is probably a good point for us to get to the questions from our audience. Sure. Ben, do we have to run something yet or no?
Nope, unless you want to run the graphic.
No, we'll just go right into the questions. So, Jeff, let me start out here. Tim Beaumont wants to know, would you ever go into the biofuel CNG market?
For Lexus, Toyota, or just you're talking Lexus specifically? I think that our read on alternative fuel vehicles is that the market will drive that. What you'll see next from our family, and it'll come from Toyota, is hydrogen fuel cell technology. Right now, that is not specifically planned for Lexus, so I think we have found it helpful to consider various alternatives to alternative fuel vehicles, right? Whether it's hybrid technology or plug-in Prius, now fuel cell technology. Maybe it's not a near-term solution for us, but it's something that we would keep our mind open to.
And any thoughts to a plug-in Lexus?
Not on the near term.
Interesting. Why not?
I think that it comes down to a resource perspective, and kind of where Peter was going. The door's been opened for us here a little bit. As some of our competitors maybe head down market, we have an opportunity to really maybe flourish even more in the upper end of the luxury market, which is where we really need to go. So I don't.
So what area? Not sports car? Are you talking bigger sedan? Something above the LS?
Those are all good questions, John. Maybe we can better answer that question when I see you in a couple weeks here when we return for the North American
Detroit show.
International Auto Show.
Very interesting.
Does that help a little bit?
It will, not for this show tonight.
I understand, I'm sorry.
But we'll get there.
Okay, good.
Hey, we got a phone call, Ben. Let's bring that in.
Hi, this is Jeff W. from Baldwin, New York. My question for the panel is, do you think Fiat would be better off selling or phasing out Alfa Romeo rather than pumping all the money into it that they are planning to? I mean, Alfa has a great history, but so did big brands like Pontiac, and Fiat's European operations are in really bad shape. And why does, besides Peter, why does the automotive media seem to believe all of Sergio's pronouncements and announcements about Alfa and the future plans, which are constantly changing? Thanks. Bye.
Well, we're going to start with you on that one, Peter.
Well, Sergio's just announcing that he's coming with his fourth plan for Alfa. That's this spring. I don't know. I mean, it's now that the dust has settled, it's clear that the rationale for Sergio raising his hand way back when the government had nowhere to go was, well, first of all, it was cheap, almost free, but second of all, Fiat is hanging by a thread as a company. And Fiat desperately needs the firepower from the sales of Jeeps and trucks. So this Alfa thing is a huge distraction. Is a 4C a cool car? Sure, it's a cool car, but it's minuscule volume. And I think that Sergio's idea that, they're going to sell, 400,000 Alfas a year globally, 70,000 in the U.S. is just a pipe dream. I don't think he should be devoting resources to that right now.
Ooh, interesting. Mike, what do you think? Should they dump Alfa?
It's almost like a General Motors like question. We were talking about this earlier. Decisions made back when. I would almost say to the caller, you could really challenge why did they decide to bring the Fiat 500 and start a Fiat franchise here instead of investing those resources and putting Alfa Romeo here, where you actually might find a crack in the market for an Italian, luxury vehicle that might sell. Of course, at the time, they really only sold, what people didn't realize in the United States, they really only sold the Mito, which is like a little hatchback that probably wouldn't sell super well in the United States. I think that what the truth of the matter is that Fiat is a super capital constrained company. They can't and are not getting a ton of money from Chrysler to help subsidize the investment that you need to. And several years ago, Mark Ioni at the Detroit Auto Show, basically, he came out and said, we cannot compete with the German automakers in engineering. Our cars don't, he basically flat out said, they don't compete, we can't compete. I don't know that that's changed. It definitely has not changed. So the long answer is probably the right thing to do is to fulfill Ferdinand Piëch's dream and just sell the dang thing to
unfortunately, Sergio sold the Fiat, the brick and mortar. I need you guys to spend between $1 million and $2 million on brick and mortar, but you will get Alfa, and we'll be selling 70,000 a year, and you will be making a lot of money. well, he still has his loyalist dealers sticking with him, but a lot of them have turned, you know, just said, you know, I spent a lot of money and I'm making like $300 a car on these Fiats, and it ain't happening for me, you know. It's interesting. I just, you know, maybe not sell Alpha, but just, you know, raise his hand and say, okay, we can't do anything with Alpha for right now.
But
we're not going to have another plan yet because we can't do anything with it. They don't have the financial wherewithal to do it.
Well, when I'm sitting here between you two guys, and I would hate to see Fiat sell Alpha. But to your point, Peter, they need the money, and to your point, Mike, they got a buyer.
They got a buyer, but also they don't have the money to turn it into what, I mean, we talk about that like they should just invest and make Alpha great. But look at a company like Ford. Ford is spending, what, a couple billion, maybe more on Lincoln, you know, to revive that. That shows you they could afford to do it and aren't. Fiat and Chrysler don't have the money, and they can't afford to do it. And I mean, I don't mean to sound mean, but where are they going to come? Where is that money going to come from to make Alfa Romeo really competitive? You really need. Was it Volkswagen who said earlier this year that over the next 3 years that they were going to invest $18 billion in Audi and product development and plants? $18 billion. If you're Alfa Romeo, if you're Fiat, the entire market capitalization of your company is $9 billion. How do you compete with that? How do you compete with that?
Yeah.
Okay, back to Lexus.
Sorry.
Phil Hopewell, no, don't be sorry at all. That was good. To you, Jeff, could there be a Lexus F-Sport version of the GT86 or the FRS?
Probably not. I think F-Sport will be a model designation that will be exclusive to Lexus. So if Toyota or Scion decide to head down some, you know, AMG or M-Type or F positioning, I think they'll identify their own.
And Right Knight wants to know, will Lexus offer a sports car based on the upcoming BMW/Toyota platform?
The answer is, well, I should say first, I don't know specifically, but what I can tell you is the product offerings that I'm aware of wouldn't include what your call-in person has identified.
Okay. Let's see. Goggles Pisano says, it's amazing how many contemporary songs refer to Cadillacs. You'd think their ad agencies would take advantage of this. Well, Mr. Ad Agency, ex-ad agency person, what do you think?
You know, there's a feeling in the hip and cool young advertising community that's old school and tired and it doesn't work. I don't necessarily agree with that. It just hasn't been. First of all, if you have a hit song, you have a hit song. I think Chevrolet demonstrated that emphatically with Heartbeat of America. It was a hit record at the time. So if one of these car companies wanted to do it and got the right songwriters and came up with the right song, it would work. But yeah, you just can't hang a contemporary song with Cadillac in it and hope it works. As much as I'd like that to be the fact case.
Make the whole advertising job a whole lot easier.
Well, it's more fun. It's more exuberant if you have a hot track and you can do so much visually with it.
I'm knocked out how the right music can transform an ad.
Absolutely.
Peter, do you like our December to Remember jingle?
Don't remember it.
Oh, see?
I can't say I know.
Oh, wait, I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, that little melody just came out. Yeah.
Okay.
Red bows, shiny, happy people. It's all good.
All right. Good.
Amato Arceo wants to know, he says, I hope to own a Lexus in the next few years. However, I live approximately 90 minutes from the nearest dealer. He goes on to say, I've heard some Toyota dealers are authorized to work on a Lexus. Is this true?
So, first of all, kind of to one of Peter's original comments about, you know, trying to deliver on premier customer care, the closest Lexus dealer would want to try and work with your caller, but there are certainly markets throughout the United States where we have no Lexus representation at all, Wyoming, Montana. So we do authorize select Toyota dealers to service Lexus vehicles.
Oh, very interesting. So maybe we help make a sale tonight, even though it might be a few years away.
That's all right.
Here's a good one for you, Peter. JM1NB says, oh, yeah, it's actually addressed to you. He asks, if the Mustang's an all-new platform, how can cost be an issue? Because you were talking about, you thought some of the Evo stuff didn't make it cost.
There were some curves in that Evo concept that are not
easily stamped out.
Not easily stamped out, and you know I'm happy to say that's still a black art in this business. I mean, you can't just. I mean, some of these concepts they show you, it's like, wow, those are cool, but to execute them in production, skin.
Except that, you know, on the MKC, you know, the little CUV, the rear tailgate,
which is unbelievable,
is a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece.
And it is hydroformed. You know, back in the 1990s, Toyota made a car in Japan only where all the body panels were hydroformed. And the way that you hydroform it in this case is, to simplify the thing, you literally have a bladder full of water and you have a male dye. You put the sheet metal over the bladder and you stamp it with the male dye, and the water pressure essentially becomes the female part of the dye. And that's how you stamp this out. So you can do big pieces, very complex curves, and guess what? Your tooling cost is half. So I don't know what volume they're looking for in the MKC, but I'm intrigued to see that Ford's going with a hydroformed tailgate.
That's going to be a hit, by the way. Mark my words. That's going to be a hit car.
I think you're right. Well, you know, it's the hottest segment in the market. It's a good-looking vehicle. They're going to put some muscle behind it. Let's see. What else do we have here? Boy, a lot of questions. Oh, here's one. What do you guys make of Saab coming back into production?
Why?
I don't give them a curve.
No.
Now, this is like, what do they call it? The Saab electric company, but these are not electric cars. They're not electric 9.3s. No. Anyway, yeah.
What I think is that I feel sorry ahead of time for the people who invested the money and to get it restarted.
Right. Okay, Goat Rope says to you, Jeff, you're really thrilled that Lexus never did a version of the IQ, right?
So that would be consistent with us not wanting to head quite down that far into the market, so your caller's correct.
Well, but Aston Martin did a version of it, although they're dropping it now, too. Let's see, somebody... What about Lexus with a diesel?
So we have elected at this point not to head down the diesel path. I think that, again, as we try and prioritize our resources, we feel more comfortable expanding into hybrid technologies as opposed to diesel. We know it's very popular in Europe, but it's been a conscious decision that we've made not to go there. I know there are some customers that are very interested in diesel for Toyota, for Scion, for Lexus, but right now, not our interest.
Isn't Toyota getting a BMW diesel?
I don't know, John.
I could be wrong on that.
I don't know.
But, okay. Let's see here. Oh, and by the way, just so I let the viewers know, that was John Faulkner who asked about the diesel. So here's another one from our work. To you two guys here, what about stretching the Mustang platform for the next Taurus?
I think we'll see a Lincoln before we see that.
Yeah, and I think that the Taurus is going to be off of their new DCD platform that is under the Fusion, which is a front-wheel drive platform. So I seriously doubt the rear-wheel drive will be used for anything other than a Lincoln. I can't imagine what else they would use it for. They pretty much, it's the only rear-wheel drive platform other than their pickup truck and their big, heavy SUV, the Expedition, right? I mean, they really don't I don't think they see much hope for that for anything other than a Lincoln. Although they won't say that, but I'm sure that's what it's for.
Or maybe several Lincolns? I mean, you know, the finance guys are going to love having several vehicles come off that platform.
It just brings in the problem with it is that you pretty much, okay, if you do a rear-wheel drive platform, especially in the premium market, you say, okay, well now we also have to put in all-wheel drive, right? And so it just adds a lot of cost, and you know, I just don't see them doing it widely. So
I'd like to run a car company where we do a rear-wheel drive sedan and have all the people complain in the northern and just say, too bad. Yeah. We only build rear-wheel drive cars here.
That was Jaguar until like last year, right? So.
Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Tim B wants to know, how about the Turbo 4 in the IS all-wheel drive?
So we are absolutely intrigued by turbo engines, and I think that as we move forward in the not-too-distant future, that's something that we will likely embrace.
Very interesting. Amato Arceo, I forgot to get to the second half of his question. This is the guy who lived 90 minutes away from a Lexus dealer, wanted to know if he could go to a Toyota one. He says, what about getting different interior colors? My biggest complaint with the current cars is that they all come in basic black. I'd like 2 or more colors in an interior.
Well, we do offer several different interior colors. He's talking about a specific vehicle right now?
No, not a specific one.
Maybe he can email me, and we'll see if we can work something out for him. So I'm a little bit confused by the question. I know that we offer several.
Maybe that was just a general comment about interiors.
Well, I think that's true almost across the industry.
I mean, for years, decades, GM was the valley of gray inside.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just looking for a lot more variation than what we currently.
Well, certainly more. Going back to, I was talking earlier, I was driving the Corvette, and the one that I was in had this beautiful chocolate interior. It was sensational.
That's kind of a new thing, that going to that chocolate brown leather. I really like it too, just especially like the person who wrote in said, I mean, when you get that black leather that's in everything, it's nice to see something.
I remember the company that started it was Porsche. In an anniversary edition of the Boxster, it had Carrera GT silver paint, and it had a brown top, and it had brown leather, and that started that. And that was about 5 years ago at the Detroit show.
Well, I can't tell you how many times I've lost a black glove, a black hat, or a black scarf in a car, because we're constantly getting in new cars here, and when you're switching from one to the other, you sort of glance inside to see, did I leave anything in here, and then find out where the hell's my glove. Okay, last question. This is from Abhi Kumar. Says, we all know Lexus has been the best in customer service and satisfaction for a long time, but I see that other automakers like Jag and Mercedes are heading up the chart. Lexus is going to have to make even better improvements for its customers to keep that #1 position. So how are you going to tackle that?
We agree with your caller. We look at the last J.D. Power customer satisfaction survey ranking, and we finished 3rd, which is with our focus and drive for premier customer care, it's unsettling. Now, I will tell you, though, when you look at the data, I think Jaguar finished 1st. I think the index was 740. Porsche was 739, and we were 737. So the difference was not much, but still it's 3rd, not 1st, and we don't like that. But it goes to a couple things. One, just how competitive the industry is, which is great for the customers, right? Everyone benefits by that. A couple of years ago, we introduced Lexus technology specialists and Lexus delivery specialists into all of our dealerships, and the dealers have embraced it beautifully. And that has absolutely helped us as multimedia systems have become more complex and technologies become more complex. Those are the kinds of things that we will continue to focus on, because certainly as the industry has lifted its game, we have to make sure that we continue to try and outpace that lift.
Competition improves the breed.
It does, absolutely.
With that, we ought to wrap it up. Jeff, Bracken, thanks so much for coming on.
Good to see you.
Really
Good to see you,
interested.
Joe.
Michael, thanks so much.
Yeah, it's been great having you. Mike, great having you on the show again.
Thanks, great to be here.
Good to be here. And Peter, good seeing you again,
Good
man.
seeing you, John.
Yeah, let's do it again next week.
Are we doing it? Yeah, we are.
I think we are doing it next week. And I want to thank all of you for having tuned in.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone. Your journey, our passion.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern. Get your daily news fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.